at drtomroselle.com. And send me what you want to send me, and I will get back to you, and I'll answer the questions, and tell you what I would do if I was in your position. Tell you what I would do if you were my family, because that's the reason I do the program. Look, this is a quest to put you on life without drugs, without surgery, without medical intervention. There's nothing better in our world than medical care when you're dying and bleeding in the street. They're the ones that are going to save your life. But when it comes to chronic resolution of problems, natural health care is where it's at. The work that we do is what you need to do. We're coming up to the break, to the end of the program. This is, I enjoy this more than anything I can possibly tell you. Please join us on the 18th. Register for the class. Go to drtomroselle.com and do it. And I'll be here next week with a brand new program, another area of interest. And remember, I do it for one reason only. I love you all. You have a great day. See you soon. Bye.
WJFN W224EB 92.7 FM Chester, W299DB 107.7 Bonaire, 100.5 FM Goochland, and WJFB.
Bum, 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 I ran. Bum, 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 I ran. Bum, 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 I ran. Bum, 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 I ran. What country's got a feeling really hit the ceiling? Bum, I ran. Bum, 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 I ran. Went to a mosque, gonna throw some rocks. Tell the Ayatollah, gonna put you in a box. Bum, I ran. Bum, 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 I ran. Sam's getting pretty hot. Time to turn Iran into a parking lot. Bum, Iran, bum, 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 Iran, bum, bum, Iran. The country's got a feeling, really hit the ceiling. Bum, Iran, bum, 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 Iran. Call the volunteers, call the bombardiers, call the financiers. Better get their ass in gear. Bum, Iran, bum, 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 Iran. Supplies.
8 o'clock just got sweeter. Patsies, there's no sucking up here. Grab your binkies, grab your little blankie. You're about to get a shot of America first.
Say hello to my little friend!
Yeah, that sounds accurate.
If you ain't first, you're last.
Yeah, no thanks. Canada can be last. Until it's a state. Then it naturally becomes first.
But you don't say that.
So why don't you stick that in your pipe and smoke it, soy boy?
And I'm a knucklehead at times.
Like full-time. Killer Call!
Well, here we are, Saturday morning, broadcasting from Iron Bean Coffee Studios in Allentown, Pennsylvania, on the John Fredericks Radio Network. Here we are, folks. We all went to bed last night, and I kind of assumed that we would end up here, to be honest with you. We have launched Operation Epic Fury in Iran. Now, Tyler, I would like you to play, if you don't mind, that cut of BB. Now, this is from 2012, right? It's from 2012, and for 30 years, we have had Benjamin Netanyahu coming to the United States, groveling for us to get engaged in a conflict in Iran, right? And here we are. We're engaged in that conflict, I believe, deeper probably than ever before. And pray for our troops. No doubt about that. And pray for everybody in the Middle East. And pray that God is guiding President Trump, because, man, I don't know. Our history in the Middle East just does not pan out. It just doesn't. Every time we go in and we think we're going to go in there and we're going to take out, an evil force in the Middle East, boy, we create a vacuum and something worse just comes in. And the only thing we end up with are a bunch of dead soldiers and a more hostile regime that takes place. Now we have Jacob joining us from BeyondDetox.com, and we were going to have a show based on health and wellness, and we're going to continue down that path. But we gotta cover a little bit of this, and I also want your thoughts on the situation in the Middle East right now. The number is 888-480-5646, 888-480-5646. Now, Iran's response was to launch missiles into Bahrain, Qatar, all of our military bases. There's been smoke that had been reported coming from some of those military bases. I don't know. We don't have any casualties as of now, but we will definitely stay on top of this as the broadcast persists. But Tyler, do we have that clip of Bibi? And then you can bring in Jacob.
So how much enriched uranium do you need for a bomb? And how close is Iran to getting it? Well, let me show you. Brought a diagram for you. Here's a diagram. This is a bomb. This is a fuse. In the case of Iran's nuclear plans to build a bomb, this bomb has to be filled with enough enriched uranium. And Iran has to go through 3 stages. Where's Iran? Iran's completed the first stage. Now they're well into the second stage. And by next spring, at most, by next summer, at current enrichment rates, they will have finished the medium enrichment and move on to the final stage. From there, it's only a few months, possibly a few weeks, before they get enough enriched uranium for the first bomb. If these are the facts, and they are, where should a red line be drawn? A red line should be drawn right here. Before Iran completes the second stage of nuclear enrichment necessary to make a bomb.
You see, I thought that's what Operation Midnight Hammer was about. Right? So that's 30 years of Bibi coming to the United States, trying to drag us in, because Operation Midnight Hammer was never about eradicating the nuclear material in Iran. It was about regime change for Israel from the beginning. From the beginning. Let's go to Chris from Washington, PA, line 1. Chris, how you doing, my friend?
Yeah, Carl, how are you doing?
Well, I woke up this morning and, I was thinking, why?
That's what I was thinking.
How is this benefiting America? And you know what? Maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't see it, Chris. I've looked back at all of these previous wars that we've been engaged in the Middle East, and it always ends up with America holding the short end of the stick.
Yep. And that's what I called in earlier in the week to John's show. He was talking with a colonel, I think, from the Marine Corps, and they were talking about this, kind of we knew this was going to happen. It sounded like this was going to happen, and I just called in and I asked them both the question. I said, hey, just a question, like, what is our score? Like, what's our winning and loss record here for, like, regime change in the Middle East? And just got quiet. And John said something, I can't remember. Then the colonel did, 5 minutes of officer speak, and, blah, 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 blah. When I went to Iraq, 200 people were, like, waving their hands. We went to Americans here. Like, meanwhile, this was earlier in the war, but, like, pretty much didn't answer my question. It was what is our win and loss record over there? It's a bunch of losses, no wins. Okay, like Afghanistan, crap. Iraq, crap. I mean, like every time we stir stuff up, or like you said, it just gets worse. And we're just praying and hoping that this government that we put over there, or the people we install, are going to do a good job. But it never works out. And even Trump saying about, well, it's a very young population, and if we do this, like they could take the country. If they wanted to take the country over there, they could have done it themselves before. If they have the numbers and the young people, like, why do they need our help to do it? It always feels like we're enforcing what we want and what the Israelis, well, it's really what the Israelis want. But it's just like, if they want to take the country over themselves, then do it, rally it up. But like, same thing with Afghanistan. Like, these people don't want democracy. They don't care. So there's not the will behind it. So it's just like we're hoping and dreaming it's going to work out, and I just don't see it happening.
No, and democracy just doesn't work, or a republic doesn't work everywhere. We saw that in Russia, right? After communism collapsed in Russia, Russia started to collapse. It took Putin to come back and implement an element of communism in order for Russia to start to get traction again and come back. Some people I know it sounds horrible, and I know people don't like to hear it, but some people just can't govern themselves. You know what I mean? Here in America, we're different. We see it different. We were born free. And Chris,
I mean, it's like they don't. It's like in a lot of these countries, these places, they don't have our values. I mean, like for instance, like real quick anecdote, like fighting the Iraq War. Our partners over there, and even Afghanistan, like some of the crap they do is heinous, and like we're partners with them, like like diddling children, doing stuff like that, and we're supposed to like turn a blind eye to that. Like, well, they're our allies, and it's their culture. Like, I don't care who you are. You don't get to molest children. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And that's like, so how can you be allies with that? You know what I mean?
You can't. And these same people, Chris, that, and Tyler, do you have that clip of Hannity I sent you? Hannity this morning on Fox and Friends, right? The classic George Bush talking points. If you don't have it, I can summarize it. But basically, Hannity goes on there and he gives the talking points about, the Iranian regime has, facilitated terror all around the world, chants death to America. Well, then I'll just point to China. Why aren't we bombing China? Because China is funneling money into the United States to cause civil unrest and uprising, besides facilitating with the Mexican drug cartel the flow of fentanyl into the United States to directly kill Americans. Why aren't we bombing China? Why are we doing business with China? Anybody? Anybody have an answer? Because I don't hear it. It's always in the Middle East, at the behalves of Israel. And don't get me wrong, folks. I don't have any beef with Israel. I want Israel to exist. I just don't want my tax-paying dollars paying for it. How much money did this cost? I'd like to know, because it's on the backs of us. We're paying for it. And then, how is this America first? How is this benefiting me? And don't give me those recycled talking points. Because from what I was told, Operation Midnight Hammer solved the problem with the nuclear capabilities of Iran. Then what was it? 2-3 weeks ago, we got Bibi running to the White House talking about these ballistic missiles and all these things that Iran is developing. And here we are today. Let's bring in Jacob. Jacob, is Jacob with us, Tyler? Let's bring him in. Let's get him in on this conversation. Because not only is Jacob from Beyond Detox, he's got a wealth of knowledge on global issues.
Just waiting on his camera.
All right. So, Tyler, were you expecting this?
I would like to say no. What did I say on our podcast last week? I said Saturday next week. We're going in by Saturday. It's Saturday, baby.
It is. It's funny because last night, I think it was last night, I sent you the statement from Rubio, right? Ordering all military or all personnel and U.S. citizens out of Iran, and you said to me, "What Americans in Iran?" Right? I mean, nobody with a half a brain, you know. And we have clips from. All right, we got Jacob's camera. We have all types of clips from Iran and the people celebrating. I'm sure they're happy. I'm sure they are. You know, but will they be happy with the end result? And the end result. All right, try to bring them in. I think the end result is, hey, there we go. You kind of look like Jesus. Give us a little perspective, Tyler or Jacob, on what your thoughts are on what we've done in Iran today.
Oh boy.
And I know this wasn't what our conversation was supposed to be about, but the great thing about live radio and TV is you got to be able to pivot on the drop of a dime, right? And so while all these other shows on a Saturday morning are pre-recorded, right, and they're running the old recycled junk from last week, here we are live, covering live breaking news here on the John Fredericks Radio Network on the Killer Carl Radio Show with my man Jacob. Now, give us your perspective.
Well, yeah, this morning, actually hearing this from you is the first time that I heard about it. I got up a little bit earlier than you, so I haven't been able to actually check into the news yet. But, you know, my first response is I'm not surprised. You have so much change going on in the world right now. Carl, I've mentioned to you many times before that we are not business as usual for the past 8 years. Looks like we have an entire new global order that is emerging where people are like a civilization states. It's not just one power that runs the show. So with this, I see a lot of nations that are, I guess what would be like, they're being uncoupled. And it's like, well, how does that have to deal with what we're doing in the U.S.? Well, I think a lot of our foreign policy, you know, we've been the muscle for the entire world. And you always have to ask yourself, well, who is it that's been controlling and steering this world towards kind of a one world order, globalist system? And I see vestiges. I see what's happening over in Iran and Israel and our dealings with the Middle East in general. Partly is, you know, trying to take control of a petrodollar. So we've got all of this conflict that's been set up. And it's always like anytime that we try to decouple from this, especially as it comes with President Trump, it's almost like there's a hook in our mouth that's just always trying to pull us back into conflict in the Middle East. Now, whether that's for money, whether that's for private central bank interest, or just the fact that people don't talk about, part of this would be a religious issue between, you know, say Judaism and Islam. There's a lot of contesting about who God has given a right to the promised land, so to speak, you know, historically from there, which is something that we don't ever talk about. We may talk about geopolitics. We never talk about theopolitics. You know, do I think that there's a good versus evil going on, or if it's just two evils going against each other and we should just take more of an isolationist approach? You know, I'd say it's one thing to have allies. It's another thing to guarantee yourself for somebody else's problems.
Yeah, and I feel like originally when we did Operation Midnight Hammer, I think President Trump was basically saying to Bibi, we're going to go in, we're going to wipe out these nuclear facilities, and I really don't want to hear any more about this, right? I really don't want to hear any more about it. We took them out. Let's just move forward. Let's move forward with a peace deal. Now, when I woke up this morning, I kind of feel the strategy might be we're going to hit them a little bit and try to bring them back to the negotiation table. Because from what I understand, Marco Rubio, Jared, and Witkoff are still in the Middle East, and they're supposed to have more meetings Monday. Now, I don't see the Ayatollahs running to the negotiation table after this, to be perfectly honest, but maybe I'm wrong. I see this creating more hostility actually around the world with radical Muslims. I see this emboldening radical Muslims and jihadists to now run to the Middle East, because we saw this with ISIS when we were in Iraq and Afghanistan. What happened? You had people, and it might be a good thing for Europe, England, because now all the radical Muslims might just go to the Middle East, right? Like they did that in when we were in Afghanistan and Iraq. They all decided we're going to go back and fight the infidel, which is now us and Israel. And I hope this doesn't turn into boots on the ground, because I did hear this morning that one of the talking head military strategists said, well, we're going to need the United States in there with boots on the ground to dismantle, these missiles and these nuclear capabilities. We're not going to be able to just go in and bomb it, because it's going to create too much nuclear fallout possibly. And I'm just like, what? I thought we got all that. I thought it was all buried underground. Now it's not, because I'm confused with our narrative and our goal. And what's the end game here? Is the end game negotiations? Is the end game regime change? Because I don't think that Benjamin Netanyahu is going to be happy with negotiations and the Ayatollahs remaining in power. I think that this end game for him is regime change. And I think that might end up being in the end, a bigger problem for Israel.
Yeah. So, kind of taking from big picture to in the moment, you mentioned a lot of good points. One is, as far as, what's on the table. I understand, Trump has a vision, or you could say the United States has a vision for what the Middle East could be. Then you also talk about, you mentioned Britain. Do they stand to benefit? And, who is actually controlling what's going on in Iran? So I'd say there's a lot of different interests. We know that we've got the military-industrial complex that's always wanting to profit off a conflict. They got to get money from somewhere. It's an industry, and also, having control over the region. So I tend to look at this as you got two big wills that are at play, maybe in the third one. You got the military-industrial complex that wants to keep conflict going. That is the model. You could say that is the liberal international order, the petrodollar hegemony. And then you got Trump that's wanting to use this as leverage to make a deal to keep some type of, I don't even want to say peace, but to create some new, whether it's economic system or alliances in the area. We've got interest there. Russia's got interest there. Everybody's got interest in the Middle East. It's very strategic for roads, for commerce. So I just say it's always a hotbed, and I don't think we always know what exactly is going on as outsiders looking in.
Well, all I can say is let's hope that, like I said from the beginning of the broadcast, that God has His hand on President Trump and is guiding him in the right direction, because this could either be the greatest thing that ever happened, which I doubt, or just turn into a powder keg. Real quick, let me hit a few of my sponsors, because I didn't do it off the bat. Iron Bean Coffee Company. You know how great they are. Freddie, the owner of Iron Bean, had been a previous Marine, and he came back and decided to start this amazing coffee company, which I believe is the best coffee on the planet, hands down. And you can get it today. You spend over $50, you get free shipping. They've got all kinds of stuff. They've got great swag. They've got great coffee, dark, flavored, anything you want. Roast it when you order it. Just go to ironbeancoffee.com, ironbeancoffee.com. And Patriot Pouch. Tyler's been using this. Patriot Pouch is a nicotine alternative That's right. It is not nicotine, YouTube. It is an alternative, a safer, healthier way to quit smoking. And all you have to do is go to PatriotPouchUSA.com. You can use promo code KillerCarl to get 10% off. Tyler, you've been using this. Let us know what you think, Tyler. I know Chris, we sent him some. I should have asked him about it, but, well, I didn't. Tyler, what do you think of this?
It's great. I am a pouch connoisseur, and it's good pouch. I mean, it's really. I mean, if you chew, anyone who chews or has been chewing or using pouches forever, I mean, this one will definitely do it for you.
There you go. And the great thing about it is it's a company owned by my man Alex Duncan, a true patriot, and out there in Texas, bringing you an alternative to help you get off nicotine, right? To transition off of nicotine. It's just a great way to get that little nicotine buzz without the nicotine. And we've got my man here, Jacob from BeyondDetox.com/KillerCarl. We're going to pivot into some health stuff here. But you can go to BeyondDetox.com/KillerCarl. You can book an appointment with Jacob right here, right? You can talk to him about politics, and you can talk to him about having a better, healthier life and ridding yourself of all types of parasites, right? All you have to do is go to BeyondDetox.com/KillerCarl. They've got red light therapy. They've got protocols, everything to make your life better. Use promo code Carl5, save 5%. And hey, book an appointment with my man Jacob here. Known Jacob for a while now. And anytime I've got any health issues or questions, I go right to Jacob. Why wouldn't I? All right, here we go, Jacob. Let's get into let's pivot out of Iran, right? And let's pivot towards what's making us sick, right? Because that's originally what we were going to talk about. It's funny because originally I was going to start off with the Clintons, right? And what a waste of tax dollars it is to have these hearings in Chappaqua.
Yeah.
Right. You know, it's funny to me, and it shows you the power the Clintons still have. And we're going to transition into that, Jacob. I just got to go off on this rant because it's been on my mind all night long. You know, the Clintons defied a congressional subpoena. They defied a congressional subpoena, and instead of us holding them accountable, right? Instead of James Comer holding them accountable, they voted. They held them in contempt of Congress. By the way, Democrats and Republicans. The Clintons get to come back to the table and dictate the terms of their deposition. Did Peter Navarro and Stephen K. Bannon get to do that? You can have your thoughts on Bannon however you want. Everybody knows my thoughts on him. I'm not going to go on about it here. But the reality of it is they didn't get to come back and dictate, oh, well, we want it here. It's got to be this way. And, you know, all these other things. But the Clintons got to do it. Who's paying for all of our Congress to travel out to Chappaquiddick? Hotels, food. Who's paying for that, Jacob? Do you know?
Taxpayer.
The taxpayer. The taxpayer. Of course we are, right? So the Clintons win again. And all for what? For Hillary to go in there with her psychotic rants and plead the fifth and pretend like she doesn't remember. And then for Bill Clinton to go in there. And what? For our congressional members to get these 5-minute sound bites and their media hits, because that's all it's about. It doesn't benefit us in any way. If you wanted to benefit me, you should have thrown the Clintons in prison for 4 months, right? That would have made me happy. Thrown them in prison for 4 months. Let them feel a little pain, because they didn't feel any pain. They got to dictate the whole situation. But real quick, before we pivot into health, Jacob, let's go to Leonard, Georgia, line 2. Leonard, how you doing, my man?
Doing great, buddy. Good to talk to y'all again. But I just had 2 quick points. The Clintons, those pathetic cockroaches, have escaped justice as far as we can remember. And then there's one maggot that escaped justice, and that's Stephanopoulos. That's one little dude that kind of makes me just, rip my freaking hair out of my head. But I have hair, But anyway, my other point was...
We'll rip Jacob's hair out, because he's got plenty enough to rip out for the both of us.
I saw that. It looks great. Anyway, one more point. Israel, when they fire 400 rockets at them from Iran, that was go time. If I fire 400 bullets at your house, killer, Carl, you would respond. And if me and you had a feud, that'd be the day to flatten my ass out. And they didn't do it. So they can do it. They need us to do it for them. That was my 2 points.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Leonard. You have a blessed day. All right, Tyler, what's the word? The word is that the Supreme Leader has been killed. You're trying to confirm that. Is that correct?
Correct.
I haven't seen anything break on the AP yet. I have that up, and I have AP alerts on my phone. So I haven't seen that. We got one more call. Let's go to my man James, line 1 in Ohio, Springfield, the Haitian capital of America.
Hey, good morning, Carl. Morning, Jacob.
How's your harem doing of Haitian women?
Man, money's tight right now. They're not getting out there like they should.
Yeah, I want to ask, how's your health doing?
Oh, there you go. Perfect.
Hey,
segue.
Honestly,
Jacob.
You're right. That's kind of why I called in. Because y'all know my point of view on Iran and the Muslims and all that. But I was going to call in and say I've been on this almost 2 weeks now, and I'm getting better sleep, and I'm waking up, and I've noticed the last 3 or 4 days I am breathing better because y'all know I have congestive heart failure, and I feel I don't know a lot of clarity.
Strange, isn't it?
It's making me feel better.
Yeah.
Now my pain level's still there, obviously, because of all my joint problems, but the breathing is the most thing that I've noticed that really excites me because I've been having a hard time breathing for the last year or so. So I don't know that, and I'm taking it religiously, just letting you know, Jacob.
Awesome.
I'm not missing any.
Real quick, Tyler has said we're 100% positive we hit the Supreme Leader's compound, but we don't have verification that he was actually in it. So Jacob, tell us what you've done working with James.
Yeah. So just a clarification. So James has been working with me now, as he said, 2 weeks in, and a lot of the stuff that I've been doing with him is what we call energy and drainage. This is really where health and disease start regardless of what the illness or the condition is. I tell people that your body's like a drainage funnel, or it's like a clogged funnel. When stuff can't get out, it's going to create more and more toxic stuff. And so this is where I start with everybody. It's as simple as people aren't going to the bathroom. They're not having bowel movements. That's a clear sign that something is not working. So we have to reestablish that. Also, our cells get so polluted with a bunch of stuff, a bunch of toxins, whether they're biotoxins from parasites, bacteria, mold, heavy metals, environmental chemicals. This stuff is at like just unprecedented levels in our environment. You can't get away from it. It is damaging everybody's health. It destroys the cell and sucks all the oxygen out of your body. It leads to a disease state. So, with that in mind, where I've got James specifically is we have been starting to mop up, bind, clean all this toxic stuff out and help his body naturally eliminate it. So That means we're helping his kidneys, we're helping his liver, we're getting that intestinal tract cleaned out. We're preparing the way that we can get deeper into the body so we can have effective parasite cleansing, so we can start binding and removing the glyphosate, the atrazine, all the chemicals, heavy metals, and other things that get stuck in our body. And, just as a point of clarification, a lot of people don't know that those things can actually be safely and effectively detoxed out of the body. And I'm here to tell you, yes, it can. We have testing, one, to be able to identify those things, whether it be, mold, heavy metals, radioactive particles, environmental chemicals, forever chemicals. We can test for all that stuff. And we do it pre and post when we put people on protocols, before and after. We can see a dramatic reduction in a lot of this stuff. And as James is saying, this process and the tools that we use, because we'll get into that in a minute, the tools matter. Not all supplements are created equal. Some are terrible. Some actually get the job done. People feel a difference. And that's really where health comes in. It's not either you have something or you don't. It's not like you're catching disease. It's, are you working at peak function or are you going towards dysfunction? We got to bring you back into that kind of Goldilocks zone where the body is able to, one, balance itself, and it's actually doing the healing. We just put the tools there.
Your average person, now James obviously is a little more of an extreme case with medical issues that led him down this road. But your average person, like me, right? We are picking up these molds and toxins in our foods, in the air we breathe. And a lot of people don't realize in the newer homes, right? They're so sealed, right?
Yes.
They're so insulated and sealed that there's very little natural airflow that comes through it. And
sunlight,
prior to construction, a lot of these houses are getting wet with rain. They're getting sealed up, and then your heating systems go in, right? Mm-hmm. And you start to circulate this, even though you have these filters. The filters aren't catching a lot of these things that we're breathing in, besides the food and just your everyday toxins that we experience. Now, for somebody like me, and I've used your hydroxygen, and I absolutely love this stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I do the hydroxygen in the morning, and I'll let you go into exactly what that does. And then in the evening, for that little bit of cutting edge, I'll use the methylene blue from Meraki Medicinal.
Yep.
Right. So this hydroxygen, how does this play into, because this is something I've used that I actually have seen real life results from. How does that play in? And how would you implement that into somebody's everyday life along with other protocols you have to just detoxify us?
Yeah. Well, first off, hydroxygen is probably what's contributing to James being able to breathe better. And, I always tell people it's awesome, isn't it? When you actually get something that really works, it's not hype. It's there's something to it. So hydroxygen is an interesting supplement that we carry. Now, just as a point of clarification, and the people in like James's situation, those are the folks I deal with. I deal with the worst of the worst. We call them environmentally acquired illnesses that you just mentioned, with mold, or really any of our toxic burden is really coming from the environment. So hydroxygen in particular, this is the first place I will start with almost anybody. It's a great place to start. It's a very interesting supplement in that if you look on the back of it, it's not like it's a whole bunch of herbs or vitamins or minerals put together. No, I'm not actually a big fan of those things. They have their place, but we'll explain why later. Hydroxygen, very simply, it's delivering oxygen and hydrogen ions, or it's oxygenating the body. It's making oxygen available and usable in the cells. That is a big problem that a lot of people have today. When the cell is not able to get oxygen, utilize it, and burn it, it creates a lot of problems. One of them is you don't get energy. You have to have oxygen in order to make mitochondria. Mitochondria make ATP, which is in your mitochondria. But we got a huge problem is that toxicity from wherever it's coming from damages people's cellular machinery. And so the cell no longer can bring stuff in, it can't throw the waste out, and it can't make energy because the machinery has been all busted up from this toxic junk. And this goes back to drainage. When your liver and your kidneys don't work and you're not, moving this stuff out through bowel movements, through urination, through sweat, and through breath, you're going to get more and more toxic stuff, which is going to damage more and more cellular machinery. So hydroxygen comes in and starts to rescue this whole process by filling the body with usable oxygen. And usable oxygen means accelerated healing, much more performative energy, mental clarity, emotional stability, physical endurance.
Let me ask you a question. So if I were to mix, say, the hydroxygen with a red light therapy, right? Because red light therapy accelerates blood flow, correct? And pulls it to a wounded area, or because I saw this with my dog, right? My dog had an infection, had a big gaping wound, and they used red light therapy. And I'll be honest, at first I'm like, this isn't going to work. It's a light, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Red light laser therapy, and the healing was so rapid. And that's one thing you sell on your website is you sell the red light therapy. Now, that with the hydroxygen, is that a combination you guys would use, or is that just Carl?
It's a simple therapy. They're simple tools. They are very effective. As far as for everyday wellness, yeah, I mean, it'd be fine to do both of those together. I've got the portable infrared sauna, in my office, and then we carry that from Therasage and a few other products. But infrared light does a lot of things. It helps accelerate healing. It also helps the body communicate light better, which that's a whole interesting concept in and of itself. But a lot of times people just don't believe that therapies like this have the healing power or potential that they do, because we're so engrossed into the idea of drugs for everything. So we're not looking at root causes. We're not looking at any other modalities. We simply think that, if we're feeling bad, either there's a drug for that, or, the more natural side, I've just got to take some more vitamins and some minerals, some nutritional supplementation. And part of what we'll talk about today is nutritional supplementation is only one side of the coin. It doesn't really address toxicity and doesn't address it effectively anymore like it did maybe 50, 70, 100 years ago. So we need new tools, which is one reason why I use this hydroxygen as part of my protocols for everybody, usually at every stage, because it makes such a difference, especially when people have environmentally acquired illnesses like mold, Lyme, or suffering with heavy metals, or a lot of environmental toxicity, forever chemicals, glyphosate, or, the atrazine that, Alex Jones was famous for saying made the frogs turn gay. We actually test for that. We have stuff to help detox that out of the system.
Well, I got to be honest, Jacob, looking around at all the transgenders and stuff like that, I think he was right. I think they are turning the frogs gay.
Yeah.
Everybody thought I was lying. Here we are. We're turning the frogs gay, Jacob.
So between that and plastics, a lot of people don't know that plastics and many other toxins are what we call xenoestrogens. It means that they can mimic estrogen in the body. So, when you start messing with your body's natural hormone rhythms, it can create a lot of problems. Forget what people want to say about gender as a construct. If a man has the levels and, with the levels and the balance, the ratios of a female's hormones, it's not going to create health for them. It's going to end. That's going to end badly.
And that's funny that you bring that up because I was talking with my wife about this the other day, and I'm like, it all started with the feminization of men. Do we remember the metrosexual back in the day? Right, the metrosexual. Like James, he's a metrosexual.
Queer eye for the straight guy.
Yeah, he would go get his hands manicured. Right, James? James, are you still there? All right, we lost James. All right, well, the metrosexual. And I said, it's funny because if you look back, the influx of people drinking bottled water, right? The influx of bottled water. And I said, who knows the effects of these plastics in bottled water on the body? I said, if you kind of look back, it kind of all started to happen then, oh no, we have Michelle from New Hope, PA, line 2. All right, Michelle, what's up?
Good morning, Carbon Carl. I just had a question for your guest. I was wondering if that, because I've been having a problem with erections, and I was wondering if that red laser would help.
What?
So
that's not serious, Carl.
I've heard that it could help erections.
Well, there's actually a lot of stuff to that. There are devices like Gainswave. There are devices, one that can help stimulate erections by breaking up plaque within the penis. And a lot of red light therapy can help with blood flow there.
Tyler, are we allowed to talk about this right? I don't want to get an FCC.
It is a scientific name,
Okay, so we'll talk around it. We'll talk around it then. But interestingly enough, doing things like this, helping with cardiovascular flow, that is a big issue or part of male performance. And when you are able to get better blood flow or just better cardiovascular health, that does fix one of the problems that people have with ED.
Is that something you would sell on your website?
Yeah, red light therapies in general, any of the infrared lights, depending on the device, because we have a number of them. We have things that do near infrared, far infrared, mid infrared, and full infrared. So between that, anything that's going to start detoxing and clearing your system, anything helping with your cardiovascular system, even simple things like people take, supplements that have beetroot extract or beetroot in there.
So you're saying you sell underwear that's infrared?
I don't, but I'm sure there are some people that do.
I just invented something, guys. I just gave it away. I'm patenting that infrared underwear.
That should help with ED.
Or burn it off, one of the two.
Well, I mean, we do have the face mask with the multiple lights, so
they do.
Maybe that's
what I was
there.
thinking. You see, Jacob, we're gonna have to talk after the show. We might have to patent this infrared underwear. I don't know. All right, Michelle, thank you so much for your call. Hopefully that helps. And hey, listen,
a little help.
Listen. All you have to do, Michelle, is just go to beyonddetox.com/Killer Carl. You're going to get a discount. You can also book an appointment with Jacob here. 15 minutes, right, Jacob? 15 minutes, consultation, free. Why wouldn't you want to do that? You just take 15 minutes, do a consultation.
With that red light? I got it.
No. Those are done virtually over the phone. We don't do the red lights on people. There's
no. I don't, if I purchased your product of the light laser, I don't want to burn my penis.
I don't think that we'll have a problem with that because a lot of our lights you can actually sit on or sit in front of and use for
All right,
you can use continuous.
That's enough. That's enough of the vulgar talk here. All right, Thank you so much. Just go to his website, Michelle, order whatever you want. And the hydroxygen will help you. So just order that, and you know, it'll increase cellular health with blood flow. So there you go. You know, the one thing that people don't realize is, you know, they go to the doctor, Jacob, your traditional medicine, and the doctor prescribes one of two things to you all the time. It's either steroids or antibiotics, right? No matter what the problem is, it's always steroids or antibiotics or a combination of them. What are the effects of those things on the body versus the way you approach medical health? Because let's be honest, traditional holistic medical health has been practiced for years, thousands and thousands of years, and has had results. And a lot of modern medicine is based off of that, just with man manipulating the drugs to mimic what's actually out there in nature.
Creating something that is synthetic enough that it can be patented. And, you know, I mean, that's a big issue you have with medicine in general, even if things do elicit a response, is the body's real interesting. It can tell what is foreign and what is biocompatible.
Mm-hmm.
But to answer your question, it's very simple. Do we want to address symptoms or even mask them? Or do we want to identify and address the root cause? And we're in such a state today that people don't even think in terms of that. They don't think in terms of, hey, is there a number of causes that are actually creating this problem? Is it something that can be known? Is it something that can be addressed? And, you know, that's where I come in. But when you're asking about, you know, what are the side effects or the ultimate ends of these tools, which you mentioned, there's very limited. We're either talking about drugs or we're talking about surgery, and they have their place, especially when it comes to life-saving. You know, if it's the difference between you staying here or passing into eternity. But the issue that we have is a lot of these things, you know, an antibiotic can kill a pathogen, or antibiotic, antifungal, antiparasitics. They can kill the pathogen. And if the pathogen, you know, you probably know there's an infection. If that is the problem, then people will feel better. I've got a bit of a different take on that. The pathogens are actually getting there for a reason. Infections don't just pop up out of nowhere. They're a response usually to toxicity. I think of them as like nature's cleanup crew. They're trying to clean up the toxic waste that is essentially their home, and you're the collateral damage caught in the crossfire as they're trying to do their job. So they serve a role. But when you start putting steroids or any of these things that override your body's chemistry, you have to look at, is there a toxicity component? You look at a lot of the side effects that come with these things and you say, a lot of those sound just like toxicity, either liver toxicity, kidney toxicity. You know, what happens to these compounds when your body metabolizes them? Do they break cellular machinery? Do they cut off vital signaling that your body's trying to say, hey, there's a problem here? You know, your car, if you have the engine light come on, you take it to a mechanic and they say, okay, we just cut the light off. Problem's fixed. You wouldn't accept that. So why would you accept that with your health?
Yeah.
And
you know,
usually bigger problems, because if you don't fix the problem, if it's already torn up, it's going to get broken more with use or with, you know, wear and tear.
Yeah. My other question is you hear a lot of people pushing ivermectin as a weekly protocol, in, I guess, small doses.
Yeah.
Is that an effective way to, because I'm assuming it's what, for parasites? I would assume, because that's typically what it is, a parasitical.
For specific parasites too, it's not for all of them. There's a whole world, different categorizations of parasites. You know, I was actually having a talk with a colleague of mine, and I asked him about coming on my show. It's like, you feel safe to come on and talk about this? But it's the idea that certain medications, we actually see this with a number of disease states, that certain medications that people can take, it may kill off certain things, or it may drive those infections deeper into the tissues and cause them to what we call pleomorph. And that just means that, microbes, bacteria, fungus, and parasites, they do have the ability to change their form and their function. So they might turn into like a cyst form or go dormant and wedge deeper into the body. So like and this is the issue that some of my colleagues have with taking ivermectin, is that it can cause these microbes to go dormant and bury deeper into your body. So when you take it, you feel better, but it may be that it's not actually killing everything, but it's making things become more dormant and drive deeper into the tissues. And we do see that with certain therapies, with certain diseases. Off the top of my head, I'm thinking about Lyme. I work with people that have Lyme, neurological Lyme, and sometimes with the really strong antibiotics or the therapies, the medical therapies that they'll do, it can drive those infections deeper into the body. You feel okay when you take it, but
Jacob,
interventions.
We're coming to the end. Book an appointment with Jacob, beyonddetox.com/Killer Carl. Don't forget about Palmer Apothecary, palmerapothecary.com, and Meraki Medicinal Methylene Blue. Book an appointment. Hey, and Jacob's going to be on tonight on my podcast on Rumble. So look me up on Rumble. X will be on there tonight. We'll continue through. And don't forget to stay tuned for Godzilla Wins next. I'll see you in the chat. And then after that, the golf show, and then the great John Gordon. Stay tuned to the John Fredericks Radio Network all day long on your Saturday. Stay informed. We'll see you here next week on the Killer Carl Radio Show. Peace out.
Lifestyles Unlimited is a real estate education group that gives you the roadmap and resources to start building income through real estate. You'll learn practical strategies for using investment properties to create extra income and make informed decisions, one step at a time.